In December 2025, a brutal murder in broad daylight sparked a major crisis in Bangladesh-India relations. Osman Hadi, a 32-year-old political activist, was shot in the head as he left a mosque in Dhaka. The suspected killers are two members of the Awami League, Bangladesh's former ruling party, that was ousted in August 2024 amid a mass uprising. Hadi had played a leading role in the 2024 movement. He was also famous for his anti-India politics. And after his death, a rumor spread like wildfire that his killers had fled to India. The reaction in Bangladesh was explosive and violent. Mobs surrounded Indian consulates in Chittagong and Rajshahi, forcing India to close the visa offices. Back in Dhaka, rioters attacked and set fire to the offices of Prothom Alo and the Daily Star, two of the country's leading newspapers, over perceptions that the outlets were pro-India. A top leader of the National Citizen Party, a party formed by students who had led the July uprising, publicly threatened India over Hadi's murder if India did not stop sheltering Awami League leaders, and those accused of attacking Hadi, Hasnat Abdullah, said Bangladesh would shelter separatists from northeast India. Clearly, Bangladesh-India relations are a tinderbox, and there are plenty of potential sparks that could light a dangerous flame. Perceptions of Indian meddling in Bangladesh's politics, attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh, border policies, and even cricket. We'll get to that later. Amid the constant eruptions of public anger, it's hard to remember that not long ago, Bangladesh was one of India's closest partners. So what happened? Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's ouster from power in Bangladesh on August 5, 2024, by student-led mass protests, dramatically changed not only the country's domestic politics, but also its relations with neighboring India. Bangladesh-India ties, which had been strong during Hasina's rule, began to unravel. Simmering anti-India sentiment erupted, sometimes violently. And in the 18 months since Hasina's fall, Delhi-Dhaka relations have gone from bad to worse. Today, we'll trace everything that's gone wrong in Bangladesh-India relations since the 2024 uprising. And it's a lot. But there may be some hope in sight, however small. With a newly elected government installed in Dhaka, can India and Bangladesh put their derailed bilateral relations back on track? It's not hard to see why Bangladesh is so important for India, and vice versa. Just look at a map. The two countries share a 4,096-kilometer international border. A major stretch of the border is along India's restive and insurgency-racked northeast. India already has deeply fractured rivalries and bitter territorial disputes with two neighbors, Pakistan and China. Keeping Bangladesh friendly is of critical importance. And for over 15 years, India thought it had found a winning strategy, Sheikh Hasina. India-Bangladesh relations were at their warmest when Hasina and her Awami League were in power for 3 successive terms from 2009 to 2024. There's a deep history between the two partners. Hasina's father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was a key leader in Bangladesh's quest for independence from Pakistan, and India supported Bangladesh, then called East Pakistan, in its liberation war in 1971. Later, when Mujibur and nearly his entire family were murdered, the only two survivors, Sheikh Hasina and her sister, took shelter in India. New Delhi's protection paid off in spades. Professor Elizabeth Roche explains the strong ties between Hasina and India.
We need a stable Bangladesh, which is the contrast, if you will, to an unstable Pakistan, which is on the west. So India keeps Bangladesh on its side. So India never ever, did anything to upset Sheikh Hasina, and in return, Sheikh Hasina also made sure that the relationship with India was on a very even keel. Idea was that India should not, or the Modi government rather, should not be embarrassed. So this was the kind of relationship that both sides nurtured.
During Hasina's long rule, her government shut down training camps of anti-India insurgent groups on Bangladeshi soil and extradited to India militants in its custody. Hasina allowed Indian goods to transit through Bangladesh, boosting connectivity projects. And most importantly, she avoided reaching out to Pakistan and kept her government's deals with China well under India's red lines. And Hasina refused to criticize the Modi government's controversial moves against Muslims in India, even when that involved a massive campaign to send supposed Bangladeshi infiltrators back across the border. In return, India dutifully looked the other way when the Hasina government engaged in widespread rigging of elections, crushing the political opposition and silencing dissent. But that devil's bargain would come back to haunt both Hasina and her longtime partners in New Delhi. Ali Riaz, a longtime professor who served as a special assistant to the interim government that succeeded Hasina, says the relationship hit its worst ever point after Hasina's fall.
Since the Yunus government came into power, that is, in the wake of the upsurge in August 2024, the relationship is in the lowest ebb. There is no doubt about it. But I would say the relationship has been in the lowest ebb in the last 54 years.
In early August 2024, when Hasina resigned following the massive protests of July, she immediately fled to India. Many Bangladeshis believe that India's support was fundamental to enabling Hasina's 15-year reign. That belief became colored with nationalist anger and allegations that Hasina not only benefited from Indian support, but that she traded away Bangladesh's national interests in exchange. That India opened its borders to shelter her appeared to prove the critics right. In the aftermath of Hasina's ouster, anti-India anger bubbled to the surface. Violence targeted not only the Awami League and its supporters, but also Indian interests in Bangladesh, and India was not prepared. Here's Elizabeth Roche again.
India didn't see this coming, so it was to them a surprise. I do know for a fact that in the Indian High Commission, there was a kind of a panic situation. So when it comes to August of 2024, India witnesses a complete upheaval in Bangladesh. They are not prepared for it in terms of what are going to be the consequences of this. The situation today is totally the opposite of what we had during the tenure of Sheikh Hasina. The question is there any trust between the two governments? I don't think there is.
Days after Hasina's ouster, a new interim government was installed, headed by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus. From the interim government's perspective, it tried to keep ties with India on an even keel, but India wasn't interested, says Ali Riaz.
The approach from the Yunus government has always been tried to improve it, because India is an important partner in terms of Bangladesh trade and other things. It is practically surrounded by India. However, that has not been reciprocated well by Indian establishment, I would say.
Among the major sticking points was, again, Sheikh Hasina. The interim government immediately moved to seek accountability for the violent crackdown on student protesters that had precipitated Hasina's downfall. Over 1,000 people were killed when the military began to open fire on the gathered protesters. In the eyes of many, the former prime minister was directly responsible for the carnage. In May 2025, amid mass protests demanding punishment for what they called Hasina's fascist rule, the Yunus government banned all political activities by the Awami League. As a result, the party was barred from competing in the February 2026 election. In November 2025, Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal went much further. It sentenced Hasina to death for crimes against humanity. The interim government sought her extradition from India, but New Delhi hasn't budged, and no one really expects it to comply. Some in Bangladesh fear that India's motive goes beyond protecting a longtime ally. There are concerns that New Delhi will seek to reinstall Hasina in power. Elizabeth Roche explains.
I'm a former journalist. Some of my former colleagues are telling me that what Bangladeshis are actually worried about is India is today giving a refuge to Sheikh Hasina. Does that extend to any kind of attempt to reinstall her as Prime Minister? I don't know. I think the people of Bangladesh have actually moved on from Sheikh Hasina. So I don't think that's something India should sort of even consider.
Hasina herself has made things worse by constantly commenting on Bangladeshi politics and keeping alive the idea of a political comeback. In late January, just 2 weeks before Bangladesh went to the polls, Hasina held a press conference in Delhi. She called into question the legitimacy of the upcoming election, since her Awami League had been banned from taking part. Hasina claimed that Bangladesh will never experience free and fair elections under Yunus. The authorities in Dhaka saw her statement as an attempt to incite acts of terror during the election. To many Bangladeshis, it was also deeply ironic, given Hasina's long track record of stage managing elections to sideline the opposition and ensure her own grip on power. The fact that Hasina was given this platform at all enraged many in Bangladesh. While New Delhi insisted that Hasina is a private citizen now and free to speak her mind, Bangladesh wasn't buying it. The interim government warned that Hasina's stunt set a dangerous precedent vis-a-vis the future of Bangladesh-India relations. Ali Riaz confirms that Hasina's statements were a major sticking point for the interim government.
Bangladeshis would like to see Hasina being tried, but the most important thing is that she has not only been given refuge, she has also been allowed to incite within Bangladesh. That is very problematic. So at this point, not only the Yunus government, but most importantly, the general public is pretty much annoyed. In a sense, it is not a surprise because Hasina received this kind of support for 16 years. When democracy was backsliding and our autocratic regime was emerging, it has become a big issue at this moment because it shows that India is choosing one individual over 170 million people.
Meanwhile, India accused the Yunus-led interim government in Bangladesh of not protecting the country's Hindus from violence. In both December 2025 and January 2026, violent lynchings targeting Bangladeshi Hindus stoked outrage across the border in India. For the Modi government, which has built up its image as a protector of Hindus, talking tough on anti-Hindu violence in a neighboring country is non-negotiable. To many Bangladeshis, however, it's gross interference and stunningly hypocritical, given India's own track record of pogroms against Muslims. And then there's the geopolitical factor. Elizabeth Roche explains the link.
Now, what happens when minorities are targeted in Bangladesh and India responds rather strongly? Obviously, tensions are created between the governments. And then who wins? Then it's definitely Pakistan that wins. China also wins. So all these things, are in a way intertwined.
The more ties with India soured, the more Yunus sought alternative partners in Pakistan and China. Since Hasina's ouster, Dhaka has forged growing economic and defense relations with Islamabad and actively courted Chinese investment. During a visit to Beijing in late March 2025, Yunus actively called for China to invest in Bangladeshi ports. He also noted that India's northeast is landlocked, with no way to reach out to the ocean except through Bangladesh. That was tantamount to poking India right in the eye. Discussing India's restive and vulnerable northeast with China pushed all the wrong buttons for New Delhi, and India hit back hard. Just days later, in April 2025, India revoked a 2020 agreement that had permitted Bangladesh, which is surrounded by India on 3 sides, to use Indian land customs stations, ports, and airports for the transshipment of goods to third countries. A few months after that, India banned the entry of ready-made garments and jute from Bangladesh. These decisions targeted the very foundations of Bangladesh's economy, but rather than incentivizing friendly ties with India, the punishment only further motivated the Yunus-led interim government to deepen connectivity and trade with India's arch-rivals, Pakistan and China. The 3 countries are even exploring setting up a regional body to replace the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, without inviting India. For Bangladesh, the problem is a fundamental lack of respect on India's part. Ali Riaz lays it out.
I would not call it anti-India sentiment. The way I see it is this. Bangladeshis want a respectable, equal relationship. That is the fundamental thing here. India's approach, including the leading persons in BJP, the leadership, has spoken so badly about Bangladeshis and Bangladesh. So the way I see it, Bangladeshis do want to have a better relationship with India, but with dignity, with equality, not being treated, as inferior or a big brother-like approach.
The situation is so bad that it has spilled over onto the cricket pitch. Long an arena where even bitter rivals like India and Pakistan could find common ground. Before the start of the 2026 Indian Premier League, the Kolkata Knight Riders bought the rights to a Bangladeshi bowler, Mustafizur Rahman. The IPL is the world's largest and most lucrative cricket league. A contract there is life-changing for any player and a source of great pride for citizens from cricket-mad countries. But given the sad state of Bangladesh-India relations, the Indian public took to social media in outrage over the selection of Mustafizur. Eventually, the Board of Control for Cricket in India, or BCCI, forced the Kolkata Knight Riders to cut Mustafizur And that decision, made solely on the basis of the player's nationality, outraged Bangladeshis. In response, the Bangladesh Cricket Board announced that the Bangladesh team would not travel to India to participate in the T20 World Cup. They also banned all broadcasts of the Indian Premier League in Bangladesh. That's Bangladesh-India relations in a nutshell, so toxic that even cricket diplomacy is dead. However, not all hope is lost. India made little effort to engage the Yunus administration. In part, that's because the Yunus administration had repeatedly provoked Delhi. It not only wanted to be seen as correcting Hasina's excessive tilt to India, but also seemed inclined to appease the resurgent Islamists. But on a deeper level, New Delhi figured that it didn't really need to interact with Yunus. After all, he wasn't leading an elected government, but overseeing a short-term arrangement. That's no longer the case. Bangladesh has a new elected Prime Minister, Tariq Rahman of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or BNP, and both India and Bangladesh's new government may be more willing to cooperate now. India has reasons for skepticism about the BNP. Historically, BNP governments not only pursued stronger ties with Pakistan, but also provided anti-India insurgent groups with sanctuary and logistical support in Bangladesh. But with the BNP now back in power, Delhi has no choice but to learn to deal with it. A hostile relationship with yet another neighbor is not in India's interest. Even before the election, Indian officials held quiet talks with Tariq Rahman and other BNP leaders, most notably when India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar was in Bangladesh for the funeral of Khalida Zia, the former BNP chair and Tariq Rahman's mother.
The Indian Foreign Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, attended the funeral of Khalida Zia. So when he traveled to Bangladesh for the funeral, he did meet her son, who is now the Prime Minister. And in that meeting, what I'm told is that Tariq Rahman said that whatever problems there may be between India and Bangladesh, the two sides should remain engaged at all times. I think that is quite positive, at least for the start. How things actually work out later on, we need to wait and see.
As for the BNP, it has harbored animosity toward India for decades, in part because India was close to the Awami League and stayed silent when the BNP, as the main opposition party, faced oppression at Hasina's hands. Also, the BNP used to be an ally of the Jamaat-e-Islami, which harbors a deep antipathy toward India for religious reasons. But the old equation with the Jamaat is gone. The former friends were rivals in the recent election. On his return from exile, Tariq Rahman reminded Bangladeshis of the Jamaat's collaboration with Pakistan in the Liberation War. Both India and the BNP government will need to set aside their past experiences with each other to pursue a pragmatic engagement. That won't be easy. In its budget for 2026-2027, India halved its financial assistance to Bangladesh, signaling its deep unhappiness with Dhaka. Delhi will expect the BNP government to reverse the interim government's bonhomie with Pakistan in particular, if it wants to rewrite relations with India. But given widespread anti-India sentiments among Bangladeshis, the BNP government has limited room to maneuver. The new government will have to be especially careful given the resurgence of the Islamists. The Islamist alliance led by the Jamaat-e-Islami won just under 70 seats, making it the main opposition in the new parliament. That's nearly 4 times its previous high-water mark of 18 seats. And the Jamaat did particularly well in the areas of Bangladesh that immediately border India. Further complicating the picture, in India, West Bengal and Assam are due to vote in state assembly elections in just a few months. To win elections in these two states, the Hindu nationalist BJP is polarizing voters along communal lines. Violence against Muslims in both states and hostile rhetoric against Bangladeshis can be expected to grow. This will invariably spark outrage in Bangladesh, likely to be further inflamed by the Jamaat and its allies. That will make the building of bonds between Delhi and Dhaka a difficult task. However, the current tensions are not in the interests of either country. The security situation in India's strife-torn northeast requires a friendly government in Dhaka. Economic development of the Northeast, as well as the success of India's Act East policy, hinge on connectivity with and through Bangladesh. As for Bangladesh, while it could engage in greater economic and defense cooperation with China and Pakistan, they cannot replace India, especially in the realm of trade. As an India-locked country, Bangladesh cannot escape its geography. The country's trade depends on India. It's clear that both countries stand to gain from improved relations, but can they summon the required political will?
The relationship with India will be better after the election. There's no doubt in it. Looking at their election manifesto and the speeches, BNP is going to pursue a policy of a neighborhood having a better relationship. That's definitely is a must, not only for BNP, for any political party in the government. It will try to normalize, but I don't think that BNP is going to allow the domineering role that India has played for so many years. India should actually take a stock of the situation, reframe, recalibrate its policy, particularly with respect to Bangladesh. This would be their opportunity. Whether they would take the opportunity, it's up to them.
Thanks for watching The Diplomat Asia. Of course, there's much more to the story of India-Bangladesh relations. For example, the rise of Hindu nationalism in India has reshaped the country over the past decade, including its foreign policy. To find out more, check out our recent video. And leave a comment below if there's a topic you'd like to see covered in a future video.